To lead in a world that never stops evolving, you need insights from those who are driving change. Welcome to Breakthrough Innovations, where we bring together the top leaders and innovators who are reshaping their industries. I'm JL Heather, the Principal Executive Coach at Center, and in each episode I sit down with game-changing executives who share the strategies, insights, and challenges that fuel their success. In the next 20 minutes, you'll gain practical takeaways to drive your own breakthroughs. So if you're ready to stay ahead, join us here on Breakthrough Innovations. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Breakthrough Innovations. Today I'm excited to be joined by Alyssa Kaplan, the Global Client Lead at WPP, a leader in the marketing industry. Alyssa's recently been diving into the world of AI solutions and recently led a massive integrated pitch. So Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited, thrilled to have you on the show. And just in general, yeah, no problem. And in general, the way we always like to start is we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey and what first drew you into the marketing space and led to your current role.
Great. So once again, thank you, JL and Preston, for having me, and congrats on the podcast. Super exciting. So in regard to my journey into the marketing industry, when I think back to being a young child, I idolized my aunt, who luckily is still in my life, and I looked at her as a pioneer in the advertising industry. She was a creative, and her claim to fame was that she had the first shoe advertisement on the New York City buses. And I shouldn't just position it as it was the first shoe advertisement, but it was the first advertisement on the New York City buses. So this was probably in the early mid-'80s, I would say.
So like where they have the painted or vinyl on the side of the bus?
Correct.
Nice.
And it was
That's
Palazzo
cool.
Shoe Company, and super exciting. And I remember, before there was like Bring Your Child to Work Day, she would take me into her agency, and I would just like observe and be filled with wonder. And I knew at a very early age that I felt like I didn't have kind of the creativity that I saw in her. But there was something about the advertising and marketing industry that always fascinated me. So I knew going into college that is something that I wanted to major in, and I did major in marketing, and I went through the business school, and 25 years later, here I am.
That's awesome. I love having that family connection early on. That's pretty cool. That's kind of, that's a story that I can imagine you've told a few times. That is a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm curious.
I'm super proud too.
She has never told me that story before, though. Yeah.
I'm trying to bring new content in, Preston, to our conversation.
Well, and you mentioned in kind of some of the pre-interview that you were working on those AI solutions and that massive integrated pitch. And I'm curious, as you are presenting these innovative solutions and ideas to your clients, what kind of things have you learned? And what are you doing when, especially internally, you're not seeing people embrace the new stuff, the new approach?
Yeah, so there's a lot of lessons learned, and I have to say, there will continue to be a lot of lessons learned. I do not think that anyone has fully cracked the code. I know personally, I haven't, and clearly, when you think about AI and just the whole technology landscape, it's changing by the minute, by the day. So it's this constant upskilling and learning, but there's definitely a lot of key lessons as I reflect back on this past year in terms of how can you effectively and do it in a compelling, benefit-oriented way, talk about AI, talk about some of these innovative technology solutions. Because what I found speaking to so many of our clients is everyone is interested in AI and technology. So the interest level is there, but there's also a great amount of fear and just this uncertainty and unknown. I don't even know where to start on this journey. So I think a lot of it has to begin with some foundational education and trying to remove any of those barriers and blockers and the emotions that are all wrapped up into it. The other key lesson learned, and as I think about some of the client conversations that we've had over this past year, is when you're talking about the value that an innovation, a technology, an AI solution can provide to the client, it needs to be specific and customized to their needs. So think of those specific use cases. We have made some, I don't want to say big mistakes, but some mishaps when we've rolled in with an off-the-shelf solution or a demo that, is not customized. And sometimes the clients are struggling to kind of see their world or their environment in what you're sharing with them. So the more customized it could be to their needs and how this is going to solve a specific challenge or issue that they're facing, the better off you will be.
So how do you balance something like that? Because on the one hand, you're trying to bring something to life and show them a real example of it, but on the other hand, I've seen when we do bring something pretty lifelike looking, we set these unrealistic expectations that it'll be ready tomorrow, or or the whole system is ready today. So how do you balance that perspective of telling it in their words or their perspective good enough, but also helping them realize that it'll take some work to get there?
Yeah, so we actually just went through this very recently with one of our clients, in which they asked us to prepare a demo. And they gave us two very specific use cases in regard to content creation. And we had less than 2 weeks to turn around a pretty customized demo and do it live. So there was no video recording. So there was some angst walking in, will the technology actually work in person in front of 50 people? And thankfully it did. But I think to answer your question, Preston, luckily we were able to turn around something pretty customized to them. But the way that we presented it, we did with a great deal of transparency, because not everything that they asked for, we actually brought to life. And we were just upfront about that and really was transparent in terms of, this is where our solution is today, but it's constantly evolving. And we shared with them what the roadmap is for the next 3 months, 6 months, etc. So I think if you try and bite off too much, or just say yes, it could do everything, that's not believable. So we gave them a taste, and we felt it was very credible what we showed, but then we also kind of gave them a peek behind the curtain in terms of what we're planning for.
Well, it's interesting. I like what you're saying is, let's show them enough so they can see the potential.
Exactly.
And then let's be transparent and clear enough that we can also build trust at the same time.
Trust is key if you go back to all these emotions that you're feeling, the fear, the paralyzation, you need that trusted partner to help you through this.
Because you're taking them through something they've never done before. So, and anytime you're in that innovation space, that's almost always the case, right? You wouldn't be innovating if you've done it before. That you'd just be repeating the past.
Yeah.
And we're learning too.
Yeah. No, I love that.
It's very much like building the plane as you're flying it type of thing.
Yeah, changing the tires as you're driving down the highway.
Yeah.
Right.
So we all have to just get comfortable with that.
That's interesting. So when you think about this experience and working with these clients who weren't, and even internal people who maybe weren't necessarily embracing things from the get-go, what's your advice to new and upcoming leaders to deal with those sorts of situations as they're finding them?
I mean, we speak about this often, and Preston, you and I feel spoke about this daily, but change is just constant.
Yeah.
So, especially in the industry that we work in, like you just you have to embrace the change. If you're not embracing the change, then you're going to be left behind.
Right.
So one of the things that I do say, both to our internal teams and to the clients that we're speaking about as they are embarking on this change and knowing the emotions that they too are feeling, and that change can be both exhilarating and hard, is just to reiterate, like, we're part of this journey with you. We too feel those similar emotions. Like, we want to evolve and change alongside you. And we're fully embracing this change, because the reality is, like, with AI and all these innovative technology solutions, when I think about the industry that we're operating in, it is going to look drastically different in the next 1 to 3 years.
Right.
So how clients procure agency services and the teams that they buy, that's going to change significantly.
Right.
So we need to evolve with them, but also ahead of them. So I feel like it's a lot of, I mean, I'm not a psychology major, I was not, but there is definitely a lot of psychology that is brought into that. And I think the whole change management is often overlooked, and that's why I think a lot of things do fail. So it is something that we're trying to, like, keep top of mind, like what education is needed, what training is needed, how could you bring people along in the journey and truly feel invested. And even as I think about me personally and professionally, and I actually just had this conversation with my boss right before this, was like, I truly have learned so much this year because of these new technology and innovative solutions. And that's, like, super exciting, you know, like having done this for more than 2 decades, like, for me to say, like, oh, wow, I've learned a lot. Like, that's awesome.
It's
so
a path to
if
growth.
we could impart that on other people, that excitement and that feeling of fulfillment, like, that alone should be enough to motivate people.
And it's a little bit of an antidote to the fear as well, or a counterweight.
Well, I was going to ask, I don't even know how to quite phrase the question there, but knowing that there's so much fear attached with change, and you listed out a number of great mechanisms for change management, but have you found anything personally that helps drive some of that excitement for you? And what could we learn to help drive excitement for other people?
I think it's just, for me personally, not wanting to become obsolete or, like, in a state of static motion. I mean, what we do in advertising and marketing, I think, is super fun at times, super engaging. I mean, you know, when I look back on my career, like, I spent a lot of time on commercial sets, and then, you know, to see that product be on TV, like, that's super exciting. But, like, also what we're talking about right now is equally, if not more, exciting. Like, it truly is changing how we think and create and produce content for the world, basically, to digest. So I just feel like you just need to be very open-minded. But honestly, like, it's taken me a while to get there. This is not just like a overnight, like, phenomenon. Like, but I think if you have that perspective and that realization, like, that you do need to evolve and change, and it's going to not only benefit the client, your organization, but you personally, like, those are all big motivating factors.
I love that. You mentioned something earlier. You talked about things failing, and I think everyone kind of has the knowledge that when you're going down the unknown path, you know, failure is there. No matter how well you plan, there's a chance failure is going to come up regardless. And I'm curious, before we wrap up, how do you handle or manage failure in the process of innovation?
So I'm sure that there's some sort of like famous phrase, which I'm just going to totally mess up, but the essence is around I really believe that you learn more from failing than from succeeding. And I've had many accomplishments and successes in my career. I feel like I've been very lucky at times, but I've also had probably equally, if not more, failures, like not winning a massive pitch was a huge failure for me last year. Having some of those mishaps early on, as I referenced before, about talking about our AI solutions was a failure. But if that was a great meeting, I would not have learned as much from it.
Yeah.
I think you need to be open. I think you need to have self-awareness. I think you need to be critical, and not only look at others that were part of the process, but yourself and like your contributions. And then I try, wherever possible, just to also ask for feedback. So with some of those early meetings that I referenced, like I had very honest conversations with the client and just said like, okay, I know that wasn't a great meeting. Like, I want to hear it from you. Where did we go wrong? And some of what was told, I already sensed, I knew going in. Some things I learned new, but it was just eye-opening and also a little bit validating. So I think you just need that openness to fail, knowing that at some point, if you keep at it, it will hopefully turn into a success.
Some of that grit, that persistence, willingness to keep trying.
I love that perspective of almost putting fear in its place, because many times we fear the failure, but if we start expecting that and saying no, that's part of the process. It's not something to fear. It's something to learn from. I don't know that I feel like I could look forward to it, but it's at least something to learn from.
Yeah, and listen, I think with anything that's like new or innovative, like you're gonna fail. You're kidding yourself if you're not gonna fail. So there needs to be some sort of like acceptance, which is really hard to do. But like you're not gonna hit a home run every time.
Right. Awesome. No, I love it. This was fantastic. And as we wrap up, Alyssa, I'm curious, if people are looking to connect with you, where's the best place for them to connect and collaborate?
That would be awesome. Always happy to connect. So definitely hit me up on LinkedIn.
All right, that sounds great. I love it. This has been a really great conversation, and I really do want to thank you for joining us. And for anyone who's listening who made it this far, thank you as well. I hope today's episode brought you some value, and I really hope you consider sharing it with anyone else that you feel like could benefit from the conversation. Remember, I think if you can, take one actionable insight from here. I know for me, it's going to be that look at fear and how we learn to expect it and kind of work it into our process. But take something, apply it, and let us know how it goes. We'd love to hear about all your progress, and thanks again, and we'll see you all next time on Breakthrough Innovation.